Hello YouTube, this is Dimon360 and bit of a change, seeing me in the flesh, seeing me in real life. And what this video is a fan's perspective on what Star Wars is right now, how I feel about Star Wars. Also, where have I been on the channel and what some content you could be seeing in the future. So, why have I been gone? School. I'm in 8th grade, so school. I don't have a lot of time because my videos take a while to make. Because, yeah, just that's the only reason. That's really the only reason, guys. It's just school, so. Alright. And here we're gonna get into the big stuff. And this is my look on Star Wars, how I feel about it. So, how I started out on Star Wars is, in fact, I didn't really get into it till 5th grade, or actually more like 4th grade, actually. Yeah, 4th grade, actually, dang, long time. So, Force Awakens came out, and everybody was talking about it. Everybody. I'm pretty sure some of my teachers were even talking about it. In fact, come to think of it, I'm pretty sure my principal was also talking about it. But that's beside the point. Again, everyone was talking about it. So, I was just like, what is Star Wars? What is this? And I was starting to get interested. I'm like, this sounds interesting. And I went home, I talked to my dad, I'm like, yo, I want to try this, I want to go see the Star Wars movie. And my dad flipped out in a good way, he got all excited. And he's like, because I guess he was a Star Wars fan when he was my age, back then, 4th grade age. And he actually, and my cousin showed me all his vintage original trilogy Star Wars toys, which were crazy, and he was because he'd only seen the original trilogy, he hadn't seen the prequels, but he was showing me all the different characters on his computer, and he's like, that's Han Solo, he's a smuggler, that's Chewbacca, he's Han's friend, kind of showing me, and I'm like, well, let's go see Force Awakens. He's like, but we gotta see the other ones first, you gotta know what the Force is, you gotta know what a Jedi is. I'm like, alright. And so my uncle gave me, or let me borrow, all 6 films, and I saw Phantom Menace, and I ended that film getting blown away. Now, obviously, if I had watched A New Hope first, I probably would have become a diehard fan instantly, because A New Hope is better than The Phantom Menace by a long shot. Don't think a lot of people are going to fight me on that. New Hope over Phantom Menace every day of the week. Unless you want lightsaber action. Phantom Menace. Only then, but that's beside the point. And I was just so blown away by what I had seen. And I'm we were going to watch Attack of the Clones next. But I was just so overwhelmed by, action. The lightsaber duels. Had to have been that Darth Maul duel that hit me. I'm just like, whoa. That's crazy. And then finally, each day of the week, we just watched another Star Wars movie, and then we ended the week watching The Force Awakens. Me and my dad went to the theater, and we saw Force Awakens. And at that point, I was full on with Star Wars. I was fully in. I was ready for the ride. I literally walked out of the theater theorizing for Episode 8. Wish that film was not such a disappointment, but we're gonna get into that. And then months later, still watching the Star Wars movies, and then I was sick that on a school day, and I'm just I'll just find a show, and then I looked up Star Wars, and I'll just look up Star Wars movie or something, and there was a TV show called Star Wars Rebels, because at this point, the Clone Wars had been canceled, and because I only had cable, I didn't have Netflix back then, as I do now, but so Rebels was free because it was still going, but I had to buy Clone Wars, so I'm just I'll just watch Rebels. Even though I was initially going to watch Clone Wars. So, in Rebels, it was like, okay. And then a few weeks later of watching Rebels, I went to my cousin's house because I think it was for like my birthday, and I got like a big Lego Millennium Falcon, and we were gonna put it together. And I'm like, I was watching the Rebels, and it's alright. And he's like, you haven't seen Clone Wars yet? I'm like, no. And then he like brought me through the show. We didn't see the movie, but we watched the show, and we spent like 13, 14 hours just binge watching the Clone Wars. Like, I think we got almost through season 2. We got all season 1 done, and I was just blown away. I'm like, I didn't like Ahsoka initially, but I kept watching the Clone Wars, and now I love her. She's one of my favorite Star Wars characters. And yeah, I just started watching the Clone Wars, then I finished Rebels, finished Rebels Season 2, then Rogue One came out, I watched that, Last Jedi came out, and I don't like that film. And yeah, and here we are. And now, but actually, what I mean is, that during that time, I think it was after Last Jedi came out, and it was more like when Rogue One came out, actually. And I'm like, I love Star Wars. And my cousin, the one who got me into the Clone Wars, was like, yo, there's a really old Star Wars game that I play called Knights of the Old Republic, and I think you'd be interested. And I'm like, ooh, a Star Wars game, woo. Because I had Star Wars Battlefront at the time, but that was all I had for Star Wars video games. I play other video games, by the way. And he was like showing it to me, and I'm like, alright, and I bought it on my PC, and I started playing, and I'm like, and Terrace was like boring, but as I kept playing, I'm like, oh my god, this is awesome. This is actually like a really awesome game. And it was just a whole new world. It was like planets I was recognizing, but it was new. Like, and I'm like, I ended the game like, whoa, like this is a world, like this is a whole new world, like this is incredible. And then I found out there was a second Knights of the Old Republic. Beep, purchase, play. And again, I'm like, whoa. That was crazy. And I was amazed. And then I started getting like the comics for Knights of the Old Republic about like the Mandalorian Wars, and then I got the other series with Zane Carrick and Lucian Dre, which is a good series. Again, if you saw my top 10 favorite Legends stories, it's only an honorable mention, but it's still a nice story. It was still worth my time. It was still very well written. And it was like, after that, it was like, I found like all these Star Wars books, and I'm like, whoa. And then a little bit afterwards, me and my cousins all started playing the Old Republic MMO, or SWTOR, and that game is crazy. I still actually play SWTOR here and there. Like, I don't play it like all the time, like dedicated, but I'll just play it every once in a while. And I play the Sith Inquisitor class, and that's pretty awesome. It's a fun game, and I got the, actually, because I was because I played KOTOR, I'm a big Darth Revan fan, so my cousin gave me the Revan book, or I bought the Revan book, and he gave it to me, and I'm like, initially I thought the book was pretty good. I reread it, and maybe it's not as good as I initially thought. And then I got the Malgus book from my cousin, or actually, no, I bought the Malgus book, Deceived. Again, it was really good, but yeah, if you've read Lords of the Sith or Deceived, you'll understand what Paulus Kemp's biggest weakness as a writer for both of those books were. His book was focused on the antagonist character, yet he focused all on the quote-unquote good guys. His book was focused on the dark sider, yet he focused everything on the light sider. And it was like, I'm here for Malgus, I'm not here for this Aaron Lanier person. Though I will admit, everything with Malgus in it was freaking awesome. Like, Malgus had some freaking savage moments in that. But I really like Malgus, I like that. Then, for Christmas, I got the Motherlode. I got the Darth Bane trilogy and the Darth Plagueis novelization. Read those in a jiffy, and at that point, my journey down the expanded universe had begun. I'd watched Last Jedi, and there was still a little bit of disappointment in me. Apparently, there's something called Yuuzhan Vong War, and the Thrawn trilogy, and Legacy of the Force, and I read those. Sequel trilogies can kiss my ass, for all I care. After reading that, like, oh my god. Like, I did read Dark Empire. It sucked. That's the one Star Wars, just 2 Star Wars Expanded Universe stories that I will admit do suck. Dark Empire, and the one about the R5 unit in A New Hope being Force sensitive. Those 2 stories are trash. But everything else is awesome. And then, actually, I got into the New Jedi Order, I got into the Legacy comics, and then the movies just didn't feel as powerful. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of good movies. The original trilogy is still the best Star Wars trilogy. I will fight anybody. I'm not saying the prequels are bad. They kind of are, but they're not, like, as bad as the sequels. But you cannot deny that the original trilogy is the best Star Wars trilogy. Yes, it does have its flaws. I get that. It does have its flaws. I know, I understand. But it's still the best Star Wars trilogy. I'm sorry, but it is. I don't think a lot of people will fight me on that. But if you do, that's my opinion. But just the EU stories, like, they were the backbone of Star Wars. And that's why my first Versus video was Darth Malgus versus Anya Kuro. It wasn't Luke Skywalker versus Darth Maul or something. No, because my favorite characters aren't from the movies. My favorite characters are from the EU stories. And I do like Luke Skywalker from the EU way better than the one in canon. For all I'm concerned, the Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi and the sequel trilogy was... If you've read the Thrawn trilogy, you'll know that there was this guy called Jeruis Sabayoth, and he cloned Luke Skywalker and made La'uk Skywalker. So for all I care, in that story, La'uk killed the real Luke Skywalker, turned to the light side of the Force, and disguised himself as Luke Skywalker, and Jeruis Sabayoth is Snoke. For all I care, that is what happened in the sequel trilogy. I will not accept the Luke Skywalker Rian Johnson gave me. I'm willing to accept what J.J. Abrams gave me in The Rise of Skywalker for Luke Skywalker, but he was still just a Force ghost. And I mean, which Luke Skywalker would you prefer? For all you people who love The Last Jedi, do you prefer the Luke Skywalker that spared Darth Caedus, even though he was literally destroying a planet with his ships, because he knew that Caedus still had good in him, and he could still come back, and that there was still some light in him, and that he would just stop Caedus' machinations and save his son from the treachery, but he would not kill Caedus, and he would give him a chance? Or he kills his nephew, or tries to kill his nephew in his sleep because he felt this great darkness. Oh no! Ooh! Would you rather the Luke Skywalker that grabbed a black hole and started destroying starfighters with it, or fought a whole army of Yuuzhan Vong warriors with such speed that it looked like he was carrying 30 lightsabers, or the Luke that was sucking green milk out of a testicle monster? Answer me that, sequel fans. Answer me that. So, and now we're getting into how I feel about the new canon. No. No. I don't like it. Well, I don't hate everything in it. I don't hate everything. But I hate the majority of stuff. Sequel trilogy? that was a Thanos snap. Snapping them away. Again, for the sequel trilogy, the actors and actresses, they did their best. The visuals are phenomenal. The acting is outstanding. But the story they were giving me is ludicrously horrible. Ludicrously bad. So, like, I asked, yeah, like honestly, Force Awakens, in my opinion, is the best sequel trilogy film. And that's saying something. Like, the only reason I think it is, and that's just a copy of A New Hope. That's just a worse version of A New Hope. So, yeah. I did like Kylo Ren. I just wish he didn't lose in his first fight. But I did like his character. I despise The Last Jedi with a passion. I hate that movie with a passion. So I simply hate that movie with a passion. I literally watched it a few days ago just to count how many problems I have with it. I ended with 249 issues. And I had 18 in the first act. I mean, like, first scene, like, the Resistance, like, plot holes, retcons, issues I had with it, nitpicks. All of them were plot holes in the first scene. 1. They have Y-Wings. Why are they having these slow bombers? Plot armor. Why aren't the Star Destroyers shooting down the Resistance forces? Plot armor. Why does Paige Tico grab the remote even though it's falling really fast? Plot armor. Why is her ship somehow on top of the Dreadnought even though everything's shooting at her? Plot armor. Like, the whole first scene in that film is plot armor. Just to get a cool action sequence. And it pains me. Like, literally, what does Luke say to Leia at the end? Ben Solo is gone. I can't save him. I know my son is gone. Oh, he's not gone. He can totally turn to the light. I was just lying again. Okay, I will give The Last Jedi credit. There are some scenes I do like. Luke and Leia's reunion, and Kylo talking to Snoke at the beginning of the film, and smashing his helmet. Maybe I would have not put the smashing the helmet, but I would have put something very similar. But those are the only two scenes I genuinely like in that film. That I genuinely like. The rest of the film is pointless SJWs, character assassination, Mary Sue, Ben Swolo, and trying to subvert our expectations. To the point where when every time they try to do it, you don't care because you know it's going to get retconned 5 seconds later to get subverted again. So, absolutely hate that movie. Ugh. I don't have a lot of good to say about that movie. Apart from the acting, those two scenes, and the visuals. Like, I did not like the character of Rose Tico, but for all the people that attacked Kelly Marie Tran on social media, people suck. Okay? She did not deserve that. That was not her issue. She did not make the character of Rose bad. Okay? That's not her fault. That is Rian Johnson's fault. And J.J. Abrams, you could have had Rose as a bigger character. You could have wrote her correctly. She wasn't this irredeemable character. You could have wrote her good. Like, I'm not upset that she wasn't in more of The Rise of Skywalker. I'm not, like, a dying, hating fan. But it's like, you could have wrote her correctly. Like, I think J.J. Abrams would have known what he was doing. Not really. Because, I mean, he kind of turned... Like, honestly, watching The Force Awakens, Finn still had a lot of potential to be that stormtrooper gone rogue. they kind of canceled it out, but it was still there. Like when he drew the saber, he was done running and he was gonna face down the enemy. Last Jedi threw that aside like it was nothing. Rise of Skywalker didn't do any better. Honestly, Finn was actually a lot more like, he was more developed than Luke Skywalker. What do you think I'm gonna do? Walk out with a laser sword and face down the whole First Order? No, because a black man already did it. That's not a bad thing. I'm not saying black men can't do that. Actually, by the way, we do not have a lot of black characters in Star Wars. Well, we do. We have Lando, Mace Windu, and Finn. We need more. Not to get all, like, racist or anything, but, I mean, come on, guys. And I mean, Finn is just wasted potential, and Mace Windu and Lando are just awesome, okay? But enough of that. Rise of Skywalker. I have a lot of likes for that film, but I also have a lot of hate for that film. The whole thing that the novel yesterday got revealed in the novel that Palpatine is in a clone body. They're literally just copying Dark Empire. Like, they're not creative enough to literally give us another explanation. And I made Snoke in a pickle jar. You couldn't have figured anything more creative. What if Snoke was a Jedi who survived Order 66? And he was all deformed from Order 66. And Palpatine was like twisting his mind slowly and turning him into an Inquisitor. And Snoke was actually planning, but he had great power in the Force, so Palpatine started training him in secret to kill Vader. Yet Vader turned on his master, so he's training Ben Solo to get revenge on the Skywalkers for taking that from him. That could have been interesting. Which, speaking of that, we're going to get into that a little later. But the whole, like, there were so many acts that were rushed. Like, they were so lazy. In the final act, when Ben's on Exegol, what happened to the hole in his shirt from Rey's lightsaber stab? Gone. Why? Because they were lazy. What happened to his scar? People are like, oh, because that's Ben Solo, not Kylo Ren. Well, when Anakin Skywalker came back from Darth Vader, was he just Hayden Christensen all over again? No, he was deformed, he was gray-skinned, he was same body as Vader. It's like, just because he turned back to the light side does not mean just everything Kylo Ren ever had, like all his wounds and dark wounds are just gone. That's just laziness. That's just straight up laziness. So, also, how come Rey killed Kylo Ren on the second Death Star ruins, and she could heal him, and she didn't die, but when Ben healed her and brought her back from the dead, he died? Somebody answer me that. Because she did kill him. Both of them were dead and got revived. So, why did Rey survive? Why did Ben have to die? Oh yeah, I forgot. Lucasfilm and Disney is made up of feminist people. I forgot. Again, that's probably my biggest problem with Lucasfilm, is they are really, really feminist. I'm not a sexist. I'm not saying women are bad. Women have no power. In fact, I actually like the idea of having a female main protagonist. But they completely wasted her. Rey was so bland, so uninteresting, so overpowered that I just couldn't care. The only reason I even cared at all about Rey was because Daisy Ridley did such a good job of acting. That's the only thing I like about Rey, was Daisy Ridley's acting. It's the only thing I like about her character. The whole, I'm Palpatine's granddaughter, that gets retconned. She's just like, I'm a Skywalker now. Which again, wastes the, what they were trying to go for in The Rise of Skywalker. Like, I get what they were trying to go for, but it also makes no freaking sense. Even from the story, from the lore, just any of that. Even canon lore. But Like, I'm not saying I don't like female Star Wars characters. A while ago, I said I love Ahsoka Tano. She's one of my favorite Star Wars characters. I stand by that. Ahsoka Tano is easily one of the best Star Wars characters in both canon or Legends. She's a phenomenal character. But the thing that makes me like Ahsoka over Rey is she has growth. It's like, she starts off as this bratty teenager. She ends as this fully fledged, or she ends the Clone Wars as this fully fledged, like, Jedi Knight who's seen war. She understands the decline of the Council. She's wise. She can make decisions for herself. She's wise beyond her years. She knows what she has to do. In Rebels, she's the wise mentor who has to come to terms that her master's the second most evil person in the galaxy. Like, Ahsoka had growth. She had struggle. Like, she took the hits, but she got back up and kept going. She had change. She had to develop. She made mistakes. She had to grow. She wasn't just like, I'm a Padawan. Oh, by the way, I'm also a Mary Sue. I just killed Count Dooku. No, that wasn't that. She didn't win against Darth Vader in Rebels. Vader very near, like, if you see in Season 4, Vader was 2 seconds away from killing her if Ezra didn't pull her out of the portal just to save her. Like, if that was Rey would have just cut him across the chest and be like, oopsies. Like, and there were a lot, and even in the new canon, there are a lot of female characters who still have that growth. Jyn Erso. If Rey had been more like Jyn Erso, I would have been far more interested. Honestly, I was more invested in Jyn Erso in the first 5 minutes of Rogue One than I am for Rey in the entire sequel trilogy. That's just my opinion, okay? Fight me on that, but yeah. But Ahsoka's not the only one. I actually really liked Sabine Wren in Rebels with the Mandalorians and everything. Bo-Katan, she's like this terrorist bounty hunter, but she's able to stand up for what's right in the end. Like, ends up leading Mandalore in the end. Like, there are a lot of good female Star Wars characters, but you don't have to slam them in our faces. And that is what Lucasfilm is doing. They're just shoving these characters in our faces, and it is painful for me, an expanded universe fan, to see fans just eating this up and, like, being forced to embrace this and just eating it up. It's crap. Like that's... Now, I'm not saying I hate everything about Disney canon. I actually really like The Mandalorian. And I love Jedi Fallen Order. I love both of those stories. And those are two stories that, like, I'm pushing for, like... I'm excited for Mandalorian Season 2. I'm excited for Jedi Fallen Order's sequel that got confirmed. And I'm also really enjoying Clone Wars Season 7. I'm really liking Clone Wars Season 7. That's all Disney canon, and I'm saying I like it. So, I'm not a complete hater on Disney canon just because it's Disney canon. It's because they're not giving me the stories. Like, alright, now we're going to get into High Republic. The High Republic, I am actually excited for. For the idea, shall we say. I like the idea of exploring the Jedi between the Old Republic and the prequel trilogy. Even Legends didn't do it, so I'm really happy they're actually exploring that. The Nile, they seem like an interesting threat. They somewhat give me Yuuzhan Vong vibes, but they're not Yuuzhan Vong. It's like, they're similar, like they're an unknown species, threat to the galaxy, but they're not the Yuuzhan Vong, so I give them credit for not carbon copying them. I like the older feel, and I also like that it's all going to be novels and comics, because, personally, I prefer the novels and the comics to the films. Though I will admit the original trilogy does outdo a lot of the, some books and comics. But yeah, that's what I prefer. I prefer the EU stories because they're creative. They're these things you can't see in the films, but they're still there. It's this whole new world of adventures and excitement. All these new characters. And it pains me that nobody knows them. Like, there's like barely anybody I can talk to who knows who Ulit Keldroma is or Exar Kun. And it pains me. Like, I honestly feel like I'm just this lone wolf with no one. Like, for all you EU fans, we're practically the Jedi who survived Order 66. We're just surviving on our own in exile, trying to preserve the EU for all these EU fans watching. Now, if you are an EU fan, like, where have you been? like, we gotta preserve it. Like, people are eating this Disney stuff up. And I'm not saying Lucasfilm and Disney are bad. For instance, I actually really like the MCU. But the thing that the MCU has is, one, it doesn't shove feminism in my face, unless it's like the movie Captain Marvel. It has a plan. Kevin Feige knows what he's doing. Nobody at Lucasfilm knows what they're doing. Which is why I'm actually kind of excited to see the Kevin Feige Star Wars movie. Or there's a rumored Kevin Feige Star Wars movie. And I'm actually excited because if I know Kevin Feige, he's going to have it all planned out. He's going to know what he's doing. And it's actually going to be a film that makes sense and I know what's happening. Like, I'm actually kind of excited. I'm also excited for Taika Waititi's rumored Star Wars film. Because again, Taika Waititi, he knows what he's doing. And so far, every film I've watched him develop is actually really good. Like the final episode of The Mandalorian, really good. Thor Ragnarok, really good. What was the World War II movie he did where he played Hitler? I don't know. That movie was really good. Like, yeah, like I'm excited for those. I'm excited for Mandalorian Season 2, no doubt. And getting back into High Republic, they at least had a plan. I will give them credit that they at least had a plan. They said they've been planning this since 2014. So they've been planning this, but they haven't had the time to plan the next 3 freaking Star Wars movies. They had all this time to create a solid freaking plan for a book series, but yet the movies that are gonna hold everybody up, they couldn't give a damn and make a plan. That is laziness. That is cheap blockbuster selling, and it disgusts me. Okay, sorry about that. A little bit of a rage. But that is just how I feel. Lucasfilm right now is filled with feminism, laziness, lack of creativity, lack of planning, lack of brains, and lack of understanding. Okay, they need to get their act together. If they don't get their act together pretty soon, then Star Wars is going to fall apart. It's already falling apart. And frankly, as someone who loves this franchise, I'm willing to just ghost Lucasfilm and just stick to the EU and spend the rest of my time loving Star Wars to preserving the love of the EU and letting the fans know the real Star Wars. Until Lucasfilm gets their act together, I am willing to do that, and that is what I'm doing with this channel, is trying to show the people who don't understand this. The Versus series, it allows characters nobody knows about to be used and learn about them. And actually, I want to do like book reviews on different Star Wars books and explain why they're so good. I want to do one on the Darth Bane trilogy and why you should read it. The Darth Plagueis novel, why you should read it. But yeah, like, and I'm not saying everything, again, I'm not saying everything about Disney canon is bad. I actually really like The Mandalorian, and I'm actually very excited for season 2. Like, I really have trust in Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. I really trust what they're gonna do. I think they got it. And I'm excited for the Jedi Fallen Order sequel. I loved Jedi Fallen Order. I loved it. So I'm really excited for the sequel. Like, I really like that. I've actually been reading the Tarkin novel by James Luceno. It's actually really freaking good. I never actually thought, like, I never really liked Tarkin. Like, he was not, like, a character I liked that much. But I'm starting to like Tarkin. After reading that book, it's pretty cool. It's pretty good. I'd recommend it. It is Disney canon. But it is a canon book I would recommend. I just finished Dooku Jedi Lost. That was a really good book. I'm actually really excited that Kevin Scott, who wrote Dooku Jedi Lost, is in for the High Republic. Because I really like what he did with Dooku Jedi Lost. I also like Charles Soule's Darth Vader comics. I actually really... And the Rise of Kylo Ren. Those are really good. So not everything about this new canon is bad. But the majority is. Lucasfilm needs new leadership. Kathleen Kennedy needs to get out. She needs to get out. Bob Iger just stepped out. I need Kathleen Kennedy stepping out. Now, for who takes over, if it's Kevin Feige, I'm cool with that. I love that, actually. That actually sounds awesome. Jon Favreau, I'd like that. I would go with that. Taika Waititi, I'd go for it. Like, just anybody but her. Actually, not just anybody, but I would rather leadership from people who know what they're doing when they're making their movies. That's why I'd be good with Kevin Feige. He knows what he's freaking doing when he's making an MCU movie. When he's planning the next MCU phase. He knows what he's doing. Like, he understands. He has a plan. He understands. He understands where it's gonna go next. And that is why the MCU is a really awesome movie series in Disney, and why Star Wars Disney is crap. Alright? That's my rant. So, in short, I love Star Wars. The EU showed me a brand new world. I love that world. And after its destruction, I'm really just trying to preserve what's left. I'm just trying to preserve it. And this channel is just to help out. And Disney canon is lazy crap. And I don't like it. For the most part. Again, I'm not going to go on that. Mandalorian, Jedi Fallen Order, awesome. But that is how I feel on Star Wars. That is how I feel on Star Wars. You don't have to feel the same way. But when you're watching this channel, that is how I feel. Things might change with the High Republic. Or if Kathleen Kennedy gets out of office and someone else takes charge, then maybe something will change. But for right now, that's how I feel. As for content for the channel, more Versus videos are coming out. I have 2 in the works. They're both in scripting, but they'll come eventually. And actually, what I'm going to do in the meantime is how I'm going to rewrite the sequel trilogy. I've literally been spending my time since watching The Rise of Skywalker coming up with a plan for the sequel trilogy. And I completely rewrote the Force Awakens. I'm in the middle of the process of The Last Jedi. And Rise of Skywalker I haven't started yet. So, it'll be a trilogy of, almost like, I don't want to say podcasts, but treat them like podcasts. Because it's just going to be me talking with, like, a Force Awakens image just on the screen, explaining the new script. And then, I'll do one for Last Jedi, and then one for Rise of Skywalker. And that is where I've been. I've been with school. I hate Disney Star Wars, except for some things. I'm pro EU. Get ready to rewrite the sequel trilogy. Actually, you can expect the sequel, Force Awakens, or the rewrite of The Force Awakens to be done pretty soon, because it's all done. It's all scripted. I just need to record it, and That's all I need to do, and it'll be done, so that'll be a pretty long video, though. That will be a pretty freaking long video, but hope you're in for the ride. This is Dimon360 in the flesh. I'll see you all next time. Peace out.